Hello, welcome to Creativity Boost Podcast. Have you ever heard that questions are the answers? Well, today we're going to be unpacking how to ask better questions. And who's the best person to talk about this than someone who came up with a concept and created a company and named that company Question Everything LLC. The CEO himself, Gregory Rutledge. It's so good to have you back on the show, and I can't wait for the amazing conversation we're going to have today. So for those who have not seen you or heard of you on this show before, I'd like you to just kick us off by giving us a quick intro as we get this started.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. I'm glad to be back. It's great to see you all again, even though I don't see you, you see me. I'm Gregory Rutledge, author of From Waiter to Greater. And as he said, CEO of Question Everything. I have all the questions for your answers because you think you know the answer, but I got the question that'll make you think twice.
Absolutely. You see, Myron Golden said something really phenomenal, that I'd rather have questions that I can answer than answers that I can question. And that really stirred me up and stirs me up whenever I hear him say it and whenever I remember that powerful quote. And that is something that formed the foundation of today's conversation. And that's why I brought you on, because when I saw the name of your company, I was like, wow, this guy should have a thing or two to say about questions. Because personally, I've come to discover that being able to ask questions can set you up for great things, can set you up for great discoveries, especially in the domain of creativity, being the theme of this podcast. So can you tell us the story about how you came up with this concept of Question Everything LLC and why you named that your company, or named your company that?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. So my sisters used to draw this infinity symbol, and they'd have it as their doodles. You know how everyone back in the 80s and 90s, that's all we had to do was actually doodle. So they had these little doodles, and one that I noticed was like a question mark and then upside down question mark, like right next to each other. But instead of the dots for the question marks being on the part where it goes, it was at the top of the squiggly, and it made an infinity symbol. And I thought that was the coolest thing. And so that's where the concept for the logo came from. But when I finally realized that like Question Everything should be my thing was when I realized that I'm insatiably curious. Like I am almost annoyingly curious. You cannot just give me an answer or give me a rule or some instruction and expect me not to question why I should do it. Or why I should do it that way. Why can't I do it this way? I was horrible in school. Teachers hated me because I questioned authority all the time. Because I'm like, that doesn't make sense when you could do it this way. But do it this way because I told you so. And so one of the first questions that was ever asked of me that just broke my brain was, who are you? And I remember answering, my name is Gregory, I'm a server, I'm a rapper. I answered with things I do, what my name is, who I am in relation to someone, like what my title is in life, what my title is as a job, but I couldn't answer who I was. And when they finally stopped me and they said, you're a child of God before anything else, I got so mad. Because I was like, that's so stupid. Like that, it's so stupid because I should have known, right? It should have been a simple answer. But no one ever taught me that. And so in 2020, when I started this podcast and this concept, it was the fact that every major transformation in my life did not start with an answer. It did not start with a coaching program or some coach or mentor telling me something, but it came from someone questioning something I was doing or questioning a belief I had as a core foundational belief and shaking up my whole world.
And that truly makes sense. It's something I can really relate with. In fact, the creation of the world actually came out of a question, even though the Bible did not necessarily put it out as a question, but I feel like it was out of curiosity we came into being. Because, for example, the Bible says in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And then there was a question mark. I believe it wasn't literally put there, but I believe that was what inspired the Holy Spirit to move upon the face of the waters to do a diagnosis out of curiosity to figure out what was wrong and why what was wrong. And then God said, "Light be." So I feel like every creative endeavor has to start from a question. And if you check it in history, all of those wonderful people in history and even in contemporary times who have done amazing things, who have done great things, did it because they dared to question the status quo. They dared to question everything. And they not only question everything, they question what people believe were answers, right?
Yeah.
So can you tell me about a time where you had to question a status quo and you had to grapple with what was commonplace, what was a norm, what was a convention, even though it wasn't, conventional, but by doing that, it brought you into a new paradigm. I'd love for you to share that with us if you can.
So I'm glad you asked, because it's exactly what I wrote about in my book, From Waiter to Greater. I decided to question, like, is a degree the only way you can make six figures, or is there another way? Do I have to go through because by the time people get degrees and they get out of school, they're stuck in the same place. I waited tables for 15 years alongside people that have masters, bachelors, and PhDs that were still waiting tables, because once they got out, that lie that was sold to them that this is all they needed to make the money, still had to start from the bottom and work their way up. So why do that when I can go to a trade or skill school, like a trade school, get a certification in a specific thing, right? And go do that thing and come out of that thing with experience, real world experience to do the thing. So when I decided to question the norms, it was, okay, people are talking about this UX design. At the time, I was a barista supervisor, and they were all talking about UX design. And I had a question. These people were coming to me 3 times a day for coffee. I had 2 questions, actually. One, what do you do that you can afford to drink 3 Starbucks a day? 2, why do you need it? And they would all tell me, I'm this, I'm that. But the one that stuck out the most was, I'm a UX designer. And I was like, what is that? And so the curiosity started. But then someone asked me, how would you like to make $100,000 a year? I was on my way out of the company. They had moved me into being an account manager because they hired me onto the company because they loved the way I worked. They loved the experience that I provided for people and the way I worked with people. And they saw that as an asset to the company. So they brought me in, and then realized that you can't put me in a desk. I don't thrive at a desk. I thrive where I can be around the people. And so that question, it was like, everyone's always talking about the 6 figures, $100,000 a year. I'm good. And it's probably some multi-level marketing anyway. So I walk away from him. I continue to make this peanut butter and jelly sandwich because I knew I was on my way out. And a peanut butter jelly sandwich tasted better than defeat at that time. And I turned around and he was still standing there. And he's like, who walks away from a question like that, man? I'm like, all right, what multi-level marketing do you have for me? And he's like, what? No, man, it's UX design. So he tells me to do my research, and I do. And the curiosity just continued to grow because it was like, what is this? They keep talking about all these things and all these ways of thinking and all these questions you should ask and all these things you could do, but no one's telling me what the job is. Because that is so naturally who I am, is to question everything, that when I'm reading through these job descriptions of what these people do, I'm like, yeah, but what do they do? Like, this is all thinking. This is all question asking. This is all challenging status quo. This is all research, right? And so challenging that, and then challenging, do I have to, once I graduate here, do I have to work for this company that he designed this program to get people hired onto the company? That would have been my 3rd time working at this company. And at that time, I was driving 90 miles round trip to get there. Do I have to do that, or can I break in my own way? So the next question was, can I network my way in? Can I go to meetups and go on LinkedIn and connect with people that are in the field and make my own way? And by questioning that, what happened next? I was curious, so I went and tried it, and it worked. Not only did I get to 6 figures a year, $100,000 a year. I made it to $250,000 a year.
Wow.
With no degree.
Wow.
So if you're wondering, right, I have an associate's, but I'm 3 credits shy of actually having an associate's. I started my bachelor's, but I did 1 semester and decided it's not for me. So I don't have the degrees. Like most of the jobs I worked required a master's, bachelor's, or higher in human-centered interaction or psychology or human factors. I had none of that. What I had was experience in the trenches with 12-step programs with people that are at their worst in life. And I had experience waiting tables, waiting on people that were hungry, tired, lonely, broke, angry.
Wow.
If you just wait tables for 6 months, I was going to say a year, just 6 months, you will learn more about people when you're taking care of them in their worst moment, which is when they're hungry. You will learn more about people in an hour of play than you can in a year of conversation.
Wow, that is phenomenal, because you just explained how you experienced a paradigm shift in the quality of your life, in the quality of your finances, just by asking better questions. So you literally took yourself from waiting tables to generating $250K and above by asking better questions, by questioning your way into the place where you wanted to be. And that brings me to my next line of thought, because you said something about the educational system, and nothing against the educational system, not to take anything away from it, but one flaw in that system is that it teaches people what to think and not how to think.
Bingo.
And for you, from what you just said, you got yourself where you are now by actually learning how to think and working your way up the food chain and up the ladder, doing just that. So I'm asking you this question. Before I'm going to ask you, I want to tell you why I'm asking you, because there are people out there who have been boxed in by the educational systems that they have been told all their life was a prerequisite for their success, and by so doing, it has boxed their creativity, it has boxed their critical thinking skills and their complex problem solving skills. And right now, our job right now is to jumpstart that dead creativity, or that frozen creative juice that is sitting down, lying dormant in them, by this conversation we are having. So what can you say to someone like that who has been taught all his life what to think, but knows nothing about how to think? How can that person move from that paradigm to the new paradigm where they literally have the keys to the kingdom and can question their way into their financial fortune?
I love this, man. Yeah, thinking that school is a prerequisite for success, and now they're stuck, boxed in creativity because they've been taught how to memorize answers and what to think and when to think it. And I just got through with the class. I'm doing pre-licensing so I can learn to be a financial advisor with Primerica. Really, it's just to learn finances from a different perspective. Like, I just love to learn. So I may not do it, I may, but I just want to learn, right? I want to be licensed so that if someone, anyway, that's a sidebar. What I'm saying is, in the class, the instructor told us, you don't have to know this stuff. The more important thing is recruiting and sales. Just memorize enough on the test to get it right. And I was like, that's the wrong way to think about this. Because like, if I just memorize it to get it right, and I'm out there serving financial clients later, right, and I don't really know the content, I could potentially get someone like set up in their life insurance package, and they're paying on this their whole life, and they don't know, right?
Yeah.
That I set something up wrong. Yeah. And then they die and there's no death benefit, or they die and they paid in their whole life and their family still has to figure out how to bury them. Right.
Yeah.
So the thing to think about, like, I love that you mentioned this because it's so fresh on my mind, and this is what gets my goat going. Usually I ask people, the first question I ask them is, what do you want? Most people cannot tell you what they want. They don't know what they want. but they can give you a long laundry list of what they don't want. I just don't want to be broke anymore. I just don't want to be this anymore. I just don't want this to happen. I don't want this. And what happens? You know, the brain doesn't hear don't. It only hears what you said, right? So like, I don't want to be late tomorrow. So now what's going to happen? I'm going to be late tomorrow because that's the focus, is being late tomorrow. What if I said, I want to be on time tomorrow? Now my brain's going to start going into, how can I be on time tomorrow? Now my brain's going to go in and work for me to figure out ways that could happen. I might go to bed earlier. I might not drink caffeine after 2 p.m., right? So what do you want? They'll typically say either the things they don't want, or they'll say, I don't know. And in order to say, I don't know, there are 2 words you have to say. And keep in mind, my brain cannot hear the negative. So what are those 2 words? They'd be like, I don't know. And they'll say all this other stuff. And I'm like, you just said it out of your mouth. The 2 words just came out of your mouth. And the people that understand, they'll be like, I know. Okay, yes. What do you know? And then they'll start to tell me what they do know. And then you start to see their shoulders drop and you start to see the peace come over them. Okay, so you do know what you want. What is it? And then they'll go on this like, okay, so I want to be able to travel with my family. I want to be able to pay my bills. I want to be able to do, okay, now how do you feel? I feel good. Great. That's why questions work. Because if I ask, like, let's say something bad happens and I say, man, why does this always happen to me? Now guess what's going to happen? You're going to get Google results, a long laundry list of all the reasons why these things happen to you, or why am I like this? Okay, here's why. Because when you were a child, this happened, and when you were the blah, 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 trauma, blah, 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 right? But how could I do this? How might we do something different? Now the brain is thinking and it's working for you. So what I would tell someone that's in this place that thinks they're boxed in is, what if it could be different? What if you did get everything you wanted? What if you had a magic wand right now? Like those what if questions, those how might we questions, what they do is they build this. So there's a method of thinking in design thinking called the double diamond method. And so you diverge, you open the diamond and you diverge, and then you converge, and then you do it again. Diverge, converge. So it's 2 diamonds. Divergent thinking is, let's lay all the possibilities on the table, right? Everything that's possible. Don't throw anything away. Don't rationalize it. Skip the brain, go straight to the heart. Like, what's possible? Throw the stupidest idea out. Okay. Now that we have all those ideas out there, let's pick a few and let's narrow back in. Okay, now we have these 3. Okay, from these 3, how can we create something that is viable? So let's put all that stuff out there. Now let's converge again. What's the one thing we can work on? What's the fastest thing we can prototype in a week? What's the fastest thing we could test right now to see if it's viable, right? That's how we have to be thinking, is like, don't ask, why am I like this? Ask, how can I be better? Don't ask, what if this negative thing happens? Or don't say, we can't. Ask, why not? Right? Think Elon Musk. Like, the guy created Tesla, PayPal, SpaceX, all from challenging people. When they say we can't do that, that's not what we do, he says, why not? It's that simple.
Wow. And that is so amazing, right? Because it's not just about asking questions, it's about asking the right questions and asking better questions. And then it's not about asking the right questions only, but it's about asking the right questions to the right persons. Sometimes the person we should be asking some critical questions are not necessarily third party, but ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Many people fail in life because they've not asked themselves some very, very, very critical, life-changing and life-altering questions like, who am I? Right? Identity questions.
Yeah.
Why am I here? Identity questions. These are questions I asked myself many years ago that forced me to sit down and really take a retrospect of my life and make decisions that have brought me where I am today. And I believe that's the same for you. You even shared just some moments ago about how, someone asked you some questions and you told them about your job, you told them about your history, you told them about your ancestry, and that got you thinking, right? So how can we help someone who's listening right now who has been asking the wrong questions? How can we nudge them in the right direction to ask the right questions that will boost their creative thinking, boost their problem solving skills or their complex problem solving skills, and get them into the zone of critical thinking that will change the game for them in their finances and in every other sphere of their lives?
The simplest answer I could give them is waitertogreaterbook.com. Shameless plug. But the questions are in the book. After every section of the book, the greater is the framework. It's GREATER, right? Grounding in your unique story, reframing limiting beliefs, embracing continuous learning. That means anything that comes at you is a learning opportunity. Action-oriented goals, not just where you want to be, but what inputs, what goals are you going, like what are the things you're going to do to get to that goal? Maybe surpass it. Then transitioning with purpose. When it's not working, like learn when to pivot, right? You can be great if you want to stop there, but if you want to be greater, you have to empower a network. And you have to have resilience in the face of setbacks, because what's going to happen as soon as you get intentional about doing anything, disruption will follow, right? In there, like if you pre-order now before it's ready, you get the workbook. If you don't pre-order, I mean, you could buy the workbook separate, but the workbook takes you through with questions that are designed to get your brain thinking in the right way. So what I would say to someone is get the book, right? That's going to be your first step. But if that's not what you want to do, then I challenge you to just take a thought and question and word audit. What am I thinking? What am I saying? What am I doing? How am I talking to myself? Just document that for a week. Like when you catch yourself in a bad mood, think of the thought that led to that feeling, that led to that action or that emotion, right? Just be aware. Straight up awareness of where you're at and what's going on and what part you play in it is enough to set you in a different direction. Because what's going to happen is when you look at yourself, you're going to see how much you play a part in everything that's happening in your life. And if you don't want to change, I don't know how to help you, right? If that awareness isn't uncomfortable enough for you to want to change, I don't know if you can change, right? You have to. So a lot of people ask, how can I change? HOW, right? That's the acronym right there. The answer is right there in the question. Honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. I have to be honest with myself and others. Am I the problem? Typically, yes, you are. Yes, I am, right?
Get out of your own way.
Exactly. Open-mindedness. I have to be open to another way besides what I know or what I'm comfortable with, right? If someone's giving me the answer and I'm saying that doesn't make sense, that's not going to work. Well, if what you were doing was going to work, it would have worked by now. But if you're not open-minded to at least hearing what the other possibilities may be, how will you know? Right? So open your mind. Have a mind that's open to anything but attached to nothing. So, okay, someone says you can make money Ubering. You can't say until you've Ubered that doesn't work for you. You have to go try it. Can I make some money Ubering? I don't know. Let me go see. Let me sign up for Uber. Let me go run a few deliveries. Let me do it for 30, 60, 90 days and see how much money I make. And then I can determine for myself if this makes money or not, right? Can I make money selling courses online? I don't know. Go try it, right? Then willing. You can have the open mind, but if you're not willing to do something different, then what's that definition? The textbook definition of insanity? Doing the same thing the same way, expecting different results, right? Yeah. If I'm never willing, just willing, you don't even have to do it. Just be willing. Just the option, the possibility that you could try it, having that willingness and combining it with that open-mindedness and that honesty, you'll learn how to do stuff pretty quickly. Right? So if you're stuck, that's how.
Yeah. And just listening to you talk, just brought to my mind the story of the man by the pool of Bethesda when Jesus walked up to him and said, "Will thou be made whole?" And that man, he had the Messiah standing right in front of him. He had divinity personified. He had the powers that, formed the heavens and the earth, tabernacled in a human person, standing right before him, asking him the one question he never asked himself: "Will thou be made whole?" And guess what? He began rambling. He started to ramble and complain and say, "I have no one to help me. That's not the question, or that's not the answer that was being asked of him." All he needed to say was yes. And then he complained, he rambled, and this just typifies how the average person who's stuck like chalk in a pickup truck takes on challenges when these challenges come, or when these challenges get thrown at him. Instead of asking questions, they complain. Instead of asking themselves the right questions on how they can navigate their way out of that situation, they complain. "Oh, my uncle did not help me. My brother did not help me. My wife did not support me. If not, I would have been where I wanted to be." They just make excuses for not being what they were destined to be, for not taking on their full identity, for not aligning with the I amness of God, right? So what do you have to say to someone right now who is right now at the pool of Bethesda in, metaphoric sense, whereby they are stuck in a particular place for years? They know they can be better. They see the pool get stirred up by the angel every now and then. They see that big opportunity. They see that opportunity to take their dormant ideas and turn it into increased income. They see that opportunity to go from concept to cash flow. They have big ideas. They have these ideas written on their journals, but they've never taken those ideas and put it into the waters when it's getting stirred. And so those ideas are crippled for years. Those ideas have refused to take on flesh form, right? So what do you have to say to a creative out there who has dreams that are crippled, lying on a sick bed for years, just looking for a surge of life? What do you have to say to that person right now?
Well, I love that you used a different translation, because the translation I'm used to hearing is, "Do you want to be healed?" Right? "Will thou be made whole?" Same thing, but it kind of hits differently that way. Do you want to be made whole? Do you want to be healed? Do you really want this? So my question to that person right now who's stuck by the pool, metaphorically, with those ideas, with that desire in them dying because they're not taking action on it. My question for you is, what would it look like if you did it and it actually worked?
That's amazing, because yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I'm just letting that sit for a minute. What would it look like if what you were gonna do, you actually did it and it worked? Just think about that for a minute. Go ahead. Sorry. You think that's amazing. I want to know why now.
Yes, because one terrible question most people ask at the edge of their breakthrough is, what if it doesn't work, right? And so maybe he would have asked himself, what if when I try, someone gets in before me? What if it doesn't work? And that's one of the biggest questions, which is the wrongest question most creatives, most entrepreneurs who are stuck ask themselves when a big opportunity shows up. What if it doesn't work? Well, it didn't work for this and that person. It may not work for me. What if it doesn't work? Instead of asking themselves, you've already said something like this before, right? Asking, how can I make it work? How awesome would it be if it works? What am I not doing now that I should be doing to get it to work? Now, these are the better questions that I believe can change the game for anyone who's stuck or who wants to go from where he is to, or where she is, to a better place. Having said all of that, how can we ask better questions?
Taking the time, there's so much that we do on autopilot we don't even realize we're doing, right? We get up in the morning, we have our same routine. We get up, we go brush our teeth, we go to the bathroom, we get dressed, we go to work, we go to wherever we're going first. And like, if you are not conscious, if you're not mindful, if you are not present in the moments, you will live the same life for 17 years and not even realize it. So just slowing down enough to be mindful. Like I said, make that list, right? Like, be mindful of what you're doing at all the moments and stop and take a deep breath, right? Like, when you find yourself and your thoughts racing, or you find yourself feeling a feeling you don't want, like, stop, take a deep breath, blow out, right? Sometimes that's all you need is a couple deep breaths and your brain will start working again. But a lot of times people are just so caught up in the autopilot, the automation of life, that they don't stop to think about what they're thinking about. They don't stop to think about how they're thinking. And so just taking a moment, taking a break to, like, you're in this situation, you've been here before, you've done this before. It's like deja vu. It's like Groundhog Day. How could this be different? What could I do that could change the outcome? What input could I change that would get me a different outcome? Right?
That's $1 million question right there.
That's it. And it's so simple it hurts. Like, that's my thing right now. I have been in the crack houses with the crackheads, and I've been in boardrooms with billionaires. And you know the thing I see that is most common is everyone's looking over their shoulder left and right to see if they're enough. Everyone is questioning. Everyone is doubtful. Everyone feels like an imposter. Everyone feels like they're not enough. Everyone is looking for someone to validate them, someone to love them, someone to help them. Just some are really telling the truth about it, and others are trying to hide it. And if we just slowed down and asked ourselves the right questions, we'd get better answers, and we'd get better motion, better momentum.
Amazing. Now, I have another question for you, because you kind of took me there with your response, because there are people who have questioned everything, and every answer they got back from the outside world pushed them off the cliff, like made them feel stupid. I've been in circles where said to your face, but it made them pen you down as someone stupid or as someone not smart enough, right? So what do you have to say to someone who has been labeled by society because they asked questions before, or they try to, stimulate their curiosity, and they try to just get answers, and what they got was some answers with a perception, with a bias, with judgment, that put them in a box and labeled them as misfits or labeled them as not good enough. And that now has made them feel, well, maybe I'm not good enough because I ask too many questions. The smarter guys don't even ask questions and they get stuff done. So what do you have to say to someone, a creative, an entrepreneur, a business owner, a professional who has been sucked into the cocoon of mediocrity because or question everything? It felt wrong. People pushed back. People labeled them. People talked them.
Let your experience of school go. That's the only place. In systems that are designed to protect and uplift the systems, you are not encouraged to question authority. Your parents are not going to encourage you to question them. They're going to tell you to do exactly as they said because they're your parents. Your teachers, your authorities, they're not going to want you to question them, because when you question them, that brings something out in them that brings insecurity, because they may not know the answer, and they don't want. Belief systems are foundational. If I was to break up the foundation of my house right now, it would not stand. And so if you're questioning someone, if you're questioning everything, you are putting that person you're questioning at more risk of being found out. And remember what I said, From crack houses with crackheads to boardrooms with billionaires, everyone is afraid to be found out that they don't know what they're doing, right? That they don't have it all figured out. So what I would say, let those past experiences go. Heal from it by going out and asking better questions in better environments. You ask questions in the right environment and people will never put you down. You know, when I was in Myron's Inner Circle, you know, I was in King Solomon's Court. I paid $55,000 for a year of coaching from him. I noticed that I was afraid to ask questions because I felt like if I paid this much money, I shouldn't have these questions. Right? But when I asked those questions, when I had the courage to finally ask those questions that felt silly at the level I was at, and Myron took the time to not only answer the question, but understand like what the motive was underneath that, As a matter of fact, what he did was he involved address it for everyone. So it was an inclusive answer to that question. Now notice, I had to pay $55,000 for that question, right? But think about the rooms you're in where's for that question, right? But think about the rooms you're in. If you don't want to see other people succeed. And if you're asking someone a question and they don't have what you want, do you even really want their answer? Think about this for a minute. When I was married to my first wife, I would get advice and ask questions to people that were not married or that were Would you ask a single person who doesn't have pets or animals or children for advice with your marriage and your children?
Absolutely not.
Why
I
not?
wouldn't. Because they don't know the first thing about being married.
Right.
All they know is what they see on movies, and all of that is far from reality.
It's opinion, right? So what happens is typically we will ask questions from people on our level or below us, right? And not to say below us like they're beneath us, but like they just haven't attained the things we've attained, or they haven't been in the places we've been in, right? So like if I want to ask a business question, I'm not going to ask my sister who's still an employee, right? If I want to know about a relationship, I'm not going to ask a single person or someone that's like chronically divorced or always, like hopping from person to person. Like I want to ask the questions to the people that can actually give me the right answers. So that's what I would say is ask better questions to better people in better environments and let go of those past hurts. You can ask again.
Wow, amazing. Now, come to think of it, what would the world be like if Steve Jobs never asked whatever questions he asked that forced him to invent the Apple company and create MacBooks and iPhones and whatnot? What would the world be like if Jeff Bezos never asked the kind of questions he asked that created Amazon? What would the world be like if Elon Musk never asked the kind of questions that he asked that created SpaceX, Tesla, PayPal, as at the time when he was with the company, and all the other things that he has done? What would the world be like if Orville and Wilbur Wright never asked questions? We probably would still be going on foot from place to place, not knowing that we had the potential to fly like a bird. So think about all of the awesome potential that you have shut down inside of you. I'm talking to you on the other side. I'm talking to you listening to this conversation. Think about all of the awesomeness that you have locked down deep within because you're so afraid to ask questions. You're so afraid to question the status quo. You're so afraid to go against the grain with your questions. You're so afraid to ask, why do we have to do it this way? You're so afraid to question the answers that you would rather have answers that you can't question than have questions that you can answer. What would the world be like if you broke out of that cocoon of a lack of curiosity, or cocoon of fear and anxiety of being put down whenever you ask a question? What if you could even start by just asking yourself those very questions you so much need answers for, but you're seeking for those answers from external parties that have no business giving you those answers? What if you listen to that still small voice that is right inside of you, that you always shut down whenever it tries to guide you and goad you in the right direction, because you don't want to be seen as a misfit and you don't want to be questioned, right? These are the questions I'm going to leave you with as we wrap up today's conversation, and I want you to allow these questions marinate, right? And before I bring today's conversation to a close, I'm going to give you one more question, Gregory. What do you have to say to people who do not want to be questioned? Because I think it would be unfair to deal with those who we want to encourage to ask questions without helping those who are part of the bottlenecks, or maybe unknown to them, they're part of the cogs in the wheels of progress, of society as far as questions is concerned. What do you have to say to them? I'd appreciate if you can say a thing or two to them. Yeah.
So the people that don't want to be questioned?
Yeah. Some of them may not know, but they are just averse to being questioned. They are just averse to being asked why. Some people do that out of an egotistic mindset, while some people do that out of ignorance. And several other reasons why several people do that. But I just feel like you can say a thing or two to help someone out there who is part of the reason why other people are scared to ask questions and to question everything.
That is an excellent question. And here's what I would say to that person that's afraid to be questioned. That's another reason I started Question Everything, because I hate questions. Right? So my philosophy on life is, if anything scares you, face it head on so that nothing stands in your way, because the death of fear is certain to bring about the courage that is needed to live life to the fullest. And when I face everything that scares me head on, which was questions, I did not like questions, because growing up, questions were used against me. I was asked a rhetorical question that had no answer. Why are you like this? Why did you do this way? And they'd ask in a moment of heat, which made the questions feel like something that was wrong. And so if I answered right, if I answered wrong, no matter how I answered, I got my butt whooped. And so I hated questions, because it didn't matter what I said. It didn't matter what the answer was. It was always wrong. And so I learned to be a better storyteller. I learned to tell stories that would make me not get my butt kicked, which made them call me a liar, because then they found out that story was just elaborate, right? So either way it went, a question was a way to get me in trouble. Now, from the other side of that, when I would ask the questions, and those people had that ego, and they didn't want to be questioned because they were either authority or they just didn't want to be bothered with a question that would disturb them from their reality. I was genuinely asking because I am the most naive, the most curious, the most probably childlike person you'll ever meet. And when I ask you a question, I'm genuinely curious as to either why you did something the way you did, what you think about it, or like, why should I do this way? So I want you, those that are afraid to be questioned or that do not question my authority, take that question and see how it can shape you and grow you into a better person. Because when one teaches to learn, one teaches to learn. And what I learned from teaching children, from speaking for children at middle schools, is when they ask a question, look at the light in their face. They are genuinely like, this is their first experience with the world. They've never been here before. They've never been where you've been. They are genuinely asking, and they're a clean slate. So when you react in anger or tell them not to question, you're teaching them how to not question things and how to just become robots in this cog that we are all trying to break free from. And so we're perpetuating something we didn't like. And the reason you're probably telling people not to question you is because other people told you not to question them.
Absolutely.
And so now you don't even know how to receive or ask a question. So I challenge you to venture out, ask more questions, and let questions take you on a journey to find better answers. And then question those too.
Wow, that is such a phenomenal response. And just to say this, we need to take it up as a personal responsibility to break that loop, because at some point in our lives we were put down when we asked questions, and if we are not careful, we can enter into that loop where we perpetuate that problem to our children and to people around us when they ask us questions. Even if you feel threatened by those questions, find creative ways to respond that can provide clarity and that can clear doubts and, answer those questions, answer the questions behind the question. And that was something Jesus Christ was so masterful at. When the Pharisees and the scribes would ask him questions that appeared to be annoying questions, dumb questions, he will not only answer the question, but he will answer the questions behind the question. So I think this is an approach you can take if you're listening to this and you're scared of being questioned, you're scared of being put on the spot. Receiving questions makes you feel threatened. You need to study the life of Jesus. You need to learn how Jesus responded when he was put on the spot by even the scribes and the Pharisees, people who were out to get him, right? And to make him fall and to make a mockery of him in public. He was masterful at handling those. And if you can do that, you're going to help us break that loop. And if you add that to all the wonderful things that Greg has already put out there, you're going to be better at asking questions, and you're going to change the game as far as your finances and everything around you is concerned. On that note, I'm going to bring it to a close. Thank you so much, Greg. It has been such a rewarding conversation. I so enjoyed having this conversation with you, and I want to say a big thank you to you. And to you on the other side, I believe the same can be said for you. If you enjoyed this conversation, why not talk to someone about it? Why not share it with someone? Why not make their day, brighten up their day by teaching them how to ask better questions? Why? Because questions are the answers. We'd rather have questions that we can answer than answers that we can question. Thank you once again. I'm going to bring it to a close. I'll see you on our next episode. Till then, have a good one and bye-bye.